previously we've said that if we go to the Systems tab and select the Duct command, we can go to the Properties window and select our connection type and the type of our cross-section. Now we want to know what those connection types look like and what should we do if we want to add some extra connection types besides these default ones. Now we're going to select one of these connections. For example, we're going to select radius, elbows, tabs. And now if we click on Edit Type, a new window will open for us. This one's called Type Properties, and there's a section named Fittings. Now if we go and click on Edit, we will be able to see the already existent connections or routings. In other words, while I'm trying to draw, I can use all of these routing references. So if it were radius elbow tabs or mitered elbow tees, which are the references that we already have, all of them have been listed in here. Okay, now what was the type that I selected earlier? It was radius elbows tabs. Now what does it mean by elbow? It means that when you are trying to draw a canal or a route, this elbow type would be used to connect those ducts. M, rectangular elbow, radius 1.5W. This M right here stands for metric. If you remember, we loaded the metric template. So this is what this M means. And then rectangular elbow, which is the shape. And we have radius. It's round, it's like a curve. Now, another thing is following that, it is 1.5W, which we will discuss as we go further. Now, if I click onto here, this drawer icon would appear, on which I can click, and then it would show me several elbow types. These elbows are actually the families which have been loaded onto this project. They are into the loaded template. We can see rectangular elbow mitered and rectangular elbow radius, of which there are 3, and a 1.5W and a 2W. Like I said, we will talk about all of these later on. So here in the type section, it says that if an elbow is necessary to be created in the canal, this is what its type should be. The next two sections are very codependent: preferred junction type and junction. Here it says that if you are about to create a branch or a junction, what should its type be? And if I open this one's drawer, we have the two types tap and T. Here tap was selected. So if any junctions are to be added, that junction or branch would be shaped in tap or those direct ones. Now what would its family be? It would be this junction. It would go into this family. Rectangular takeoff standard. Another text is right below this one. If you pay attention, you can see it's in a lighter color, as in it's inactive. It says M rectangular T. If I put the type on T, you can see this one turned on and the other turned off. If we put it back to tap, it would change again. So these two sections are codependent. We also have cross, which you can see its family. The next 4 sections are all about the transitions, which is for when the dimensions of the cross section of the canal change. Or even if the shape of the cross section changes for example, from circular to rectangular. In case that happens, which families should be used? So over here we have transition, which for the family you can see it's M rectangular transition with the angle 45 degrees, meaning that if any transition happens, a transition would be applied, which would be in 45-degree angle. The next one says multi-shape transition rectangular to round, which means the transition of rectangular to round. Sometimes rectangular routes may transit to round ones. Or if you see the one right below that, it says rectangular to oval, which you can tell by the name what it means. in that case, this family right here would be used. Now, what's the difference between this family and the one above? Not only their shapes, but also, do you see this one says length? This one changes by length. For example, I can say that I want the length to be 20 or 30 centimeters, but then I might want the one above to be controlled by angle. I might want the transition to be by 30 degrees, 45 degrees, or 60 degrees. These two are very codependent, as in if the length changes, so will the angle, or vice versa. We're going to check that out later. Now, the last transition that we have is oval to round, which you can tell by its name what it indicates. You can see that no family has been decided for this one, because sometimes it may occur that we are working with a rectangular cross-section and we wouldn't need any oval to round transition. So we only have families for rectangular to oval, rectangular to round, and rectangular to rectangular. Now the next section is union, which you can see its family right here. This is actually for when, for example, we want to make a cut between two different ducts or make a connection between two separate ones. This would be the family for that. We'll check that later as well. And the last one is cap, which is for when the end of a duct is open and we want to cover it with a cap. We can use this family for that. Alright, now let me click OK and OK again. Now let's go draw a duct, and for the width we enter 800 as well as the height for with 800. Now the first click, and let me zoom in a little bit. Now at this point I want to change my cross section. So I'm gonna enter the number 500 and height 500 as well. Click and press in the escape key twice so that the duct command would be cancelled. Okay, now you can see that between these two ducts I have a new fitting. This is that transition we talked about. Now when I click on it, in the properties window it's showing me the name of its family, which is rectangular transition with 45-degree angle. This is actually what we selected as the duct type. Now this transition itself can be also changed. If I go to properties window and open this drawer, you can see we have different angles. I'm going to put it on 30 degree. As you can see, as the angle changed, so did the length. So which angle is it talking about here? So to measure the angle right here, we can go to the Annotate tab and click on Angular. Now we make our first click on this line and the second click on this one. Now we're going to drag the mouse and where we see fit, the third click. So now we know that the angle between these two lines is 30 degrees. Let me press Escape and cancel the measuring command. Now I'm going to click on this. And now we're going to select 15 degrees. So you can see that the length changes along with the angle. Now this one's 60 degrees. Now if we want a different angle or degree than these ones that we have, can we add that? Sure we can. We will talk about that as we go further. So this was the rectangular to rectangular transition. Let's go check it out in 3D as well. As you can see, this is what it looks like. Okay, now we are going to right click here at the end of the duct and then click on Draw Duct so that we can draw another piece of duct. So now as this command is activated, I'm going to go to the Properties window and open this drawer and decide that I want to draw a round duct from here on out. This one also has 3 different fittings, but we're going to select this first one. Click and Escape key. Now as you can see, it has put a fitting here for me. This one's actually rectangular to round transition. Let's go check it in 3D, and there it is. This means that it's coming in rectangularly. Here the cross section is rectangular, and this side of it is round. So it just put a rectangular to round transition for us. Now, even if my cross section were oval, it would still put something like this for me. Rectangular to oval. Now, do you remember when we said that if we want to make a cut or split a duct, it would put a union family for us. So we go to Modify tab and select the Split Element command, and then we go over here. We go to any part of the duct that we want to split. We can actually make this cut for whatever reason. I'm going to show you an example as we go further. As you can see, my mouse cursor looks like a cutter. So if we click on this outer line and then press the Escape key, you can see the duct split into two. Now if we zoom in a little and click here between them, we can see a family right here, which is called Rectangular Union. So as we cut this section, this family has been created for us. And as for cap, we can go and select our duct, and if one end or both ends are open, we can put a cap onto them. As the duct is selected, we go up to the ribbon and click on Cap Open Ends. Do you see a little piece has been added to it? This one right here, if we click on it, we can see that this is that rectangular end cap. It's actually covering the end of this duct because we don't want the air to come out, so we're going to cover it. And as you can see, we can do that by putting a cap. Now we go to the Systems tab again and the Duct command. Now we're going to select a duct type and go to Edit Type and edit the fittings. And now you are familiar with all of these fittings. So now what is cross right here? Let's check this one out real quick. Let me close these windows. Now I'm going to go and draw a duct in a way that it would cross this one right here. First, we're going to enter our dimensions. I'm just going to put in 800 for both of them, just like the first duct. And with that same height, click and click. And now the Escape key. Now, as you can see right here in the middle between these two ducts, a new fitting has been put. This fitting is the one that's named Cross. We only drew this right here just to show what those transitions for fittings. Let me go here, edit. These transitions, we just wanted to know what they are. So now we know our elbows, junctions, which could be T's or taps, cross, and the transitions, union, and cap. Now we know what all of these are. And we also know what the families for each of these types are called. So I'm going to cancel this. And as you can see, we also have type here, which we can also select them from here. These are actually those 4 rectangular types. So for example, I'm going to select mitered elbows T's. Now we go to edit, and you can see that here it says that if we ever try to draw a duct with this type, and if an elbow were to be added, this is what its type going to be. The junction type is T, and this is its family. And we also have the rest of the fittings, which are pretty similar to the one that I explained earlier. So now we want to talk about how we can add a new fitting type and put some families for them of our own. And by our own, I mean the one that we have in our template or something that we already have in our plan. So now we want to know if we can add some new families besides the ones that we have for the rectangular in our template. And if so, how can we do that? So let's go over here. We're going to go to the Systems tab again and select Duct. Now, of all of these 4 types, I'm going to select the one that's the closest to what I have in mind. And it's alright if you don't either. We can make some adjustments later on. But if it's very similar to what I'm trying to put, it just makes it faster. So after I select that, I'm going to go to Edit Type. And before we go to the Edit part, first we have to go to Duplicate. So we're going to click on that. It's because I'm actually trying to add a new type. I don't just want to edit a default type. We just want to create a new one and with a new name, and then we are going to edit that new one and then also add our needed fittings. So when I get a duplicate, By default, that previous name, which was radius elbows tabs, would be put here with a number 2 at the end of it. This number is just to distinguish these two, so that if we duplicate this without changing its name, we wouldn't have two different things with the same name. But I usually try to clear this entire name and put a new name of my own. So even if you are in a hurry, try to do this. Try to always edit your names because the neatness of your work is so much more important than speed. This neatness would really affect the quality of our work when we get a result of our modeling. Alright, now I'm gonna say that this elbow that is being used, which is radius elbow right now, I might want it to use mitered elbows, and then I want that mitered one to have those turning vanes we talked about. If you recall, in the previous video we said that if you were using mitered elbows, to avoid the pressure being decreased because of those sharp corners and maintaining a better flow through the duct, it is best that we put some vanes. So now we want to put families that include those vanes. I'm just going to delete this radius and then write vanes, mitered elbows. And well, at the end of the name, in case we want to use some junctions on the duct, then I'm going to type in fillet T. We would want to put a trioed with fillet or round ends. And actually in this selected type, the corners were trioed. But now we want to put fillet instead. And then I'm going to add transition 30 degrees. But there's really no need to put a really long name. I only wrote this one as an example, so you would know that you can add whatever you'd like. Now let's click OK. And now if you look here in the types, you can see that the default types are still remaining and a new one has been added. So now I'm going to edit this new one and add all of the fittings that I need onto here. Okay, now I want to load a family so that it would be mitered elbow but also include those turning vanes. So we're going to click here on load family. We were working with metric earlier, but here by default it has opened the Imperial folder for us. So we're going to go back and go into the English folder. You can see this US folder right here. Actually, when you are downloading your file, it may be different on which location they've gone to. But we have it in US right now. So we're going to Duct and then go into the Fittings folder. And if you remember, the cross-section of our duct was rectangular. So now we're going to go into rectangular. So as you can see, all of the available fittings are listed here. Do you see elbow? We also have a folder here named elbows. And inside of it, you can see all of the different available types of fittings for your elbows. And do you know this mitered one right here is the one that's already been loaded into the project. So now I want to use one of these two, single thickness vanes and double thickness vanes. If you remember, we talked about this in that document. And if you select this one, you can see a double thickness shape with something like 2 layers. But single thickness is just one. You can select one of them. Even if you want to select and use both of them, you can still do that. You can hold the Control key and select the second one and then click Open. Once the circle right next to our pointer stops spinning and goes away, means that it's finished loading. Now, about when I said that you can load both types, know that you can add as many families as you want. Just remember that by adding each family, the size of your file would increase. And the higher that the size of your file becomes, it would be a little harder to work with. But now here on this practice file that we are just using as an example, the size of our file isn't too big. But if you go to a whole project, you can see that little by little, when architectural, mechanical, and other items are added, the size of your file would become so big that it makes it hard to work with. So make sure which families you're loading. Don't just spontaneously add too many families. It's almost like when I go to a hypermarket and only pick up the things that I really need and then go to the cashier. It's not like you could go into the market and say, okay, all of these things are available here, so I'm going to pick up all of them. Because you don't even have enough space to keep them at home. So I'm just going to pick up the things I need, for example, 2 tomato pastes or salt. Only the things that I need, I'm going to find them and pick them up and take them home. So make sure that you pay close attention to how many families you're adding. And later on, we will talk about all of the unneeded families when no use have been made of them, how we can delete them and decrease the size of our file. But I'm also going to consider this point I just mentioned from the first place. Alright, now the family's been loaded, and we're going to say that from now on, if an elbow were to be added, first let me open this drawer. We would want that elbow to be mitered double thickness vanes. Remember to select this one right here, because if we just click on load family and OK that, it's as if we've done nothing. It's still as if you go shopping and leave all you bought out the door. It's as if you've bought nothing at all. When you haven't brought them inside, it's like you did nothing. So don't forget to select it here. Now for the junction type, even in the name we said that we want it to be fillet T. So let's go select T. Now which T, what type of a triode? We still have to load the family. So let's go to load family and go back. And now we go into the T's or triode folder. And right here select rectangular T fillet. You can see the corners are a bit round. But the one that we selected as a default from the template was this one. But now I want to select the one that says fillet. And then click open. Now it has been loaded. Now we go here to this drawer and select T fillet. Now we go to cross. We can keep this one as it is. But as for transition, we said that we wanted it to be transition 30 degree. So we're gonna open its drawer and then select the 30 degree one, and that's it. Transition rectangular to round can remain as it is, as well as rectangular to oval, and union and cap. We really don't need to change all of them. Right now we only needed to change a couple of them. So now that we're done adjusting the needed settings, we're gonna click OK. And now we're gonna start drawing ducts using this new type that we just added. First click, the second click, and in a vertical angle, the third one. And if you look close, you can see that it has put mitered elbows for us, as well as the turning vanes included. A little further, the next click. Now we're going to press the escape key, and now we want to get a junction or branch, and with all these same dimensions. Click and click. Now escape, look right here. It just added a triode with round corners. It's fillet. Now continuing this one, we want to change the dimensions. So I'm gonna click and put the width 400 as well as the height 400. Now we go further and click. Press the escape key. Now if we look at this transition, you can see it put a 30 degree one. So we just drew a canal using this new type that we just customized. Now let's go to Systems tab and select the duct command again. And let's see what happens if we select mitered elbow T's. With the width 800 and height the same. Now click, 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 and click again. Now let's go change the size. And I'm going to type in 400 times 400. And now escape. So look right here, this one was mitered. It's mitered alone, it doesn't have those vanes, but this one has those. Or its transition was 45 degrees. But here we said we wanted 30-degree transition. Now let's get a junction. We go to duct and enter the same size as the one below, 800 times 800. Click and click. And now the escape key. And you see here, this T has sharp corners, but this was the type with round corners. So in the future video, we will be opening a plan and redoing our modeling based upon that one.